These are the top 5 best weapons in Black Ops 6 Zombies as of Season 2 Reloaded. This list is based off of general gameplay and stats, and while some weapons are better for certain things, these top 5 are just really good overall. Coming in at number 5, we have the ASG shotgun, and this one is a no-brainer. It has been on everyone's list since the game release, and that still doesn't change till this day, mainly because it's such an easy weapon to use. Anyone can pick it up and start mowing down hordes of zombies, whether you're new to the game or a zombies veteran. You're simply gonna benefit off this weapon no matter what. It has a decent mag size of 40 shots when pack-a-punch, does amazing damage, but it being a shotgun in itself is a downside because those damage numbers will fall off when shooting from a distance. It's absolutely great for boss fights, especially on the Tomb. As you all probably know by now, there's no better weapon for the Sentinel artifact than the ASG, and not only for the artifact, but for the enemies that are controlled by the artifact as well. Now, some people say that the Maelstrom is better than the ASG, and while that is somewhat true considering it got a buff, the problem is that it's just not consistent enough. In order to get the best damage output consistently, you need to have the Maelstrom barrel down the zombie's throat at all times, and that's just not possible in the game of zombies. Sometimes you have to shoot from a couple feet away, and with the Maelstrom, its damage falls off drastically with the slightest amount of distance. On screen are the attachments I use for the ASG. You can swap some around if you want, but that's up to you, although I recommend using the attachments that are shown on screen. Coming in at number 4, we have the KRIG assault rifle. Ever since this weapon released, it has been everyone's go-to AR, and it makes sense considering this is a solid weapon overall, and while it might not be the best AR in the game, it definitely is the second best AR. The recoil on this weapon is very easy to handle, which is great for people who have trouble with controlling recoil patterns. The damage is super consistent all around, whether you're killing zombies or shooting at a boss, and that's obviously something you want. It has 141 shots when pack-a-punch, and while it does have a somewhat slow rate of fire, that is easily fixed with the rapid fire attachment. But don't be fooled, while rapid fire does increase recoil, it's not that noticeable on this weapon unless you're shooting zombies from across the map. And if you are, my only question is why? On screen should be the attachments I use, and once again, feel free to swap anything out, but I do of course recommend you use the ones that are shown. At number 3, we have the TANTO SMG, which I guarantee you did not expect. This weapon is heavily underrated, which is crazy to me since everyone praises the Siren 9mm when the Siren is actually a copy of the TANTO SMG. When it comes to damage output and mobility, the TANTO is better than the Siren and most SMGs. Its downside is the slow rate of fire, which of course can be increased a bit with the rapid fire attachment, but the recoil increase will be fairly noticeable on this weapon. It comes with 75 shots in the mag when pack-a-punch, which is kind of a small increase from the 50 rounds it starts off with when using the biggest extended mag, but that does balance out when it comes to the damage output. Overall, it's a solid weapon, great mobility, shreds all zombie types, and is super reliable. These are the attachments that I have on my TANTO, and if you feel like the recoil is too much for you when using rapid fire, you can swap that out for recoil springs, but that will decrease your rate of fire a decent amount. Moving on to number 2, we have the best bullet weapon in the game, especially if you're hitting your critical shots, and that is the AS Val. This thing is ridiculous. While the damage per bullet isn't the absolute best out of all the weapons in the game, it's certainly enough that the damage per second blows everything else out of the water. This weapon has the second fastest fire rate in the game, just slightly, and I mean slightly behind the compact SMG, except the AS Val has better damage over the compact, that the slightly lower rate of fire of the AS Val doesn't really matter in this situation. The mobility of this weapon is that of an SMG, the fire rate is that of an SMG as well, making this a great weapon to run around with and a great weapon for doing crazy damage in a short amount of time. Now, while this weapon only starts off with 45 rounds in the mag when using the biggest extended mag, it actually triples to 135 rounds in the mag when pack-a-punch, having only 6 bullets less than the KRIG despite it starting off with less ammo. The AS Val is honestly such a good weapon, and it surprises me that more people don't use it, but I think the reason for that is people see that it only has 45 rounds to start off with and don't know that the mag actually triples after being pack-a-punch, and actually I believe it's the only weapon in the game where the magazine triples in size when upgraded. On screen are the attachments I use and find best, but I will be honest and say that using rapid fire on this weapon can make the recoil somewhat hard to control, but rapid fire is the reason it's the second fastest shooting weapon in the game, so keep that that in mind. And now for the number one spot, and I'm sure you've guessed it, we have the dual wield GS45s, the ultimate shut off your brain and just shoot weapons. Say what you want, but this weapon when pack-a-punch is unmatched, and its only downside is probably ammo, which isn't that big of a deal anymore since we now have Voltrade. By now I'm sure you're aware that the GS45s when pack-a-punch shoot out explosives instead of bullets, which make the damage devastating to not only zombies but actually all the enemies in the game. And the best part, you don't have to be super accurate, as this weapon does splash damage, so even if you don't shoot exactly at a critical damage spot, chances are you're still going to hit it. This weapon is so easy to use that you could give the controller to a toddler and chances are they're going to survive for a round or two. This weapon automatically activates easy mode with its great mobility and crazy damage output that it constantly saves your life when getting overrun just by simply shooting at the floor. While I too would like to see a different weapon in the number one spot, we have to be realistic and honest and admit that no weapon is gonna save your life, take out hordes of zombies, and deal crazy damage to elites and specials like the GS45s do. On screen are the attachments that I highly recommend for this weapon, and I also recommend that you actually don't swap any out, as I feel like these are perfect the way they are. I know some of you are going to disagree with this list and will probably say something along the lines that the 50 cal does more damage than any weapon in the game, and that is true. The 50 cal deals what is probably the highest critical damage in the game, but it has a small magazine, low reserve ammo, you need to be very accurate at all times to get the best damage output, the bullet penetration isn't very noticeable, and it's a very heavy weapon which makes it difficult to train zombies and run around. So while it does have the biggest damage numbers in the game, it actually lacks in every other category, making it a weapon that is not viable or consistent. There are multiple weapons that have multiple downsides which prevent them from being in the top 5, but certainly can be in the top 10 and even top 15. LMGs are another example of great damage, but with downsides of slow rate of fire, long reload times, horrible mobility, but not only for running speed, but also slow ADS and sprint to fire speeds. Damage per second is a very important thing to keep in mind, as well as other factors that are important in a game mode like zombies. You don't want to run too slow or take too much time with reloading, as you'll quickly get gangbanged by 50 plus zombies. But regardless, use what's fun for you at the end of the day. This isn't ranked multiplayer where you have to use meta weapons or you're not going to have a great experience. The weapons in this top 5 will without a doubt help you with main quest and increase your chances of surviving if you're finding that to be an issue. Anyway, that's going to be it for the top 5 weapons. Let me know what you think about this list as well as your own personal list down in the comment section below. I'll be trying out some of your guys' weapon recommendations and letting you know what I think about them. Also, I might be making a top 5 non-meta weapons video that shows which weapons are more fun to use rather than just being the best weapons overall. So let me know if that's something you would like to see as well. Thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.